Welcome to End User Input. This week we have me, Tayson, Justin,
hi,
Thrud the Ninja,
Sup?
and Jason.
Hey.
All right, let's just jump right in. First,
forget the fact that there's a ninja in the room.
Yes, forget that.
We're just jumping right
You
in.
can't see me anyway.
AT&T has a gigabit internet, gigabit fiber, that doesn't watch your web browsing if you pay $29 extra.
Protection money.
Yeah, which, not gonna lie, doesn't that just create a list of people you should probably be checking their internet for?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. Like, the more steps you take to make sure that your stuff is private, the more people focus on you, because they're like, hey, that guy's doing stuff to make himself private. What the hell is he up to?
Yeah.
It's gotta be shady, right? But, I mean, honestly, this shouldn't be a thing. Your information should be private in the first place. And, I mean, if they're gonna watch your internet traffic, then they should watch your internet traffic. It's kind of ridiculous, because this is AT&T's UVerse gigabit service.
Yeah.
It's the exact same price as Google Fiber's standalone internet service, unless you want it to be private. Then you pay the $29 extra.
Yeah.
So you can get it for $70, but they're going to watch everything you do and keep a log of it.
Yeah. Which...
And if you pay the $29, then they're like, okay, well, then we won't watch you. But then you look at, like, their terms of service or something. I can't remember. Somebody posted it on the article that we have here. It's directly from their privacy policy. It's like, AT&T may collect and use web browsing information for other purposes as described in our privacy policy, even if you do not participate in the Internet Preferences Program, which is the normal gigabit fiber. The $29 that you pay extra is a fee to opt out of that program. But it says, like, even then we might track you.
Yeah.
So you're basically paying them protection money and not getting the protection. So it's even worse.
It sounds like your normal mafia racket.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I mean, it's one thing to pay for the primo stuff, but when they're not providing you with the service they promise, combined with the fact that, you know, some of us like our secrecy, our privacy.
Even for legal things.
Yeah. Even then.
Yeah. I mean, the more and more companies do stuff like this, the more and more paranoid I'm getting. Like, I'm starting to... Like, I used to just use devices and not care. I'm encrypting all my devices. I have passwords on my phone and passwords on individual apps on my phone. I'm looking into getting a VPN. Like, the more and more they try and track me, the more and more I'm like, no, fuck you, you're not going to track me. So,
yeah.
I'm getting more and more paranoid because they keep giving me reason to be, so I'm just starting to be like, okay, fine. All my traffic's going to be encrypted. My devices are going to be encrypted. Everything's going to be two-factor authentication protected. Like, I'm starting to do everything I can to keep people out of my stuff, and I don't do anything fucked up.
Yeah.
Well,
and I'm still just like, you know what? You shouldn't be looking at that. I don't care if everything I'm doing is absolutely normal and legal. You shouldn't be looking at it.
Well, and normal authentication is meant to keep malicious third parties from accessing data that's within a system. But the problem is, if you do not trust the people whose system you're using, So, like, you can have the best type of authentication and encryption standards, but in the end, if you're using some web service, the data has to be accessible there. I mean, not always. Yes. There are some things that let you store encrypted data, but most of the time they don't do that, at least internally. And then you have a lot of this proclivity for unified authentication across platforms, where Facebook wants to let you log in, or rather they wants to make you log in anywhere across the internet with your real identity. And the thing is a lot of websites use it because it's just easier. That's really...
It's easy. Yeah. They have the same functionality with Facebook. You can log into most websites using your Facebook login now.
That's what I was...
That's what he said.
Okay, Google.
No, he didn't. He said Facebook.
Oh.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
the
I'm not
point
paying
is,
attention. Leave me alone.
This happens all across the board. And really, it's like people talk. I was like, oh, what are you? This isn't 1984. No. Well, first of all, it kind of is, but what they're doing with it yet isn't. Yeah. They have the capacity to, which is threatening. The problem with this is that you don't threaten people to try and get them to do what you want. We found that doesn't work out very well because people rebel. What you do is you make it easy. So like you can pay this much and you just get tracked, but you don't notice most of the time.
Yeah.
Or you can pay more.
Yeah.
So people will just pay less because on a day-to-day basis, when it comes down to brushing your teeth and taking a shit and going to work, it's like to stand on principle that much and that every day of your life, even on tiny issues, is a burden that most people just don't care about.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's...
it is just...
A little less 1984, a little more Animal Farm, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I never read Animal Farm, but I remember bits of stuff from it.
Yeah.
So, being says you're a ninja, what's your take on this?
Yeah, privacy. You're
Well, as you can imagine, I'm all about privacy. And not just because I spend so much time watching midget clown porn. It's when it comes right down to it, the argument can be made that while you don't generally care if people look at your site browsing history, what music you listen to, what videos you watch, it doesn't matter to you at first until you realize the sheer scope of data and how it's being used against you to control what you buy, where you go, just by sheer psychological controlling, which is really quite devious. I actually kind of admire the large companies for it. But anyone who has that kind of power has more control, I think, than people realize. And that's not okay.
Yeah.
Unless it benefits me.
Of course.
Yeah, that is totally fine. Yeah, that's one of the things, like, most of the people who are, I'll say most, because it's not 100% true, but most people who are, like, looking to track all your information, they're doing it because they want to advertise to you.
And the
more
makes
information
it all that much worse.
Yeah, exactly. They want to advertise to you, so they want all this information so they know which companies to sell your information to, or which things you're most likely to use, so they can only give you those, and then they'll get advertising revenue from that. That's what most people want. I mean, there's like malicious people out there who want your access to your computer so they can launch cyber attacks and stuff from that. And I mean, that's a concern as well. But most of the people want your information. They basically want you as a product so they can sell your information to companies to give you stuff, essentially. And that's the really annoying thing. I mean, that's why people started getting kind of paranoid about Google, is because that's what Google does. Google's not really a tech company. At least not originally. They've branched into that. They were an advertising company that used their tech as a way to advertise to people.
Yeah.
And so then they just got so much information that people are like, Google knows way too much about us. But now that's everybody. Everybody is trying to do that.
Yeah.
They're trying to collect money, especially ISPs like AT&T. They're trying to collect money from their subscribers, collect money from the services like Netflix that their subscribers use, and then they're trying to sell the information about their subscribers to advertising agencies to collect money a third time. It's a ridiculous thing. They're never happy with what method of income they have.
Yeah, which is especially problematic when you get into, like, statistically speaking, even the more information they're gleaning and the harder they're pushing to advertise to everyone, the more often that advertising doesn't work. Like, speaking, and admittedly this is anecdotal, but speaking for myself, I literally look past all ads now. Like, if I'm not hearing from a friend or a person I trust on a website that's actually, like, not just a paid by ads guy, like, if I'm not hearing about something from one of those two, I just do not even give a shit.
But does your subconscious look past those ads?
That's just what I was going to mention.
Well, you have a point there, but I can still control whether I actually buy shit or not.
Yeah,
what?
But specifically because of the subconscious thing, where, like, it appeals to you in a way that you don't even realize and, like, makes you buy stuff you otherwise wouldn't have. That's why I use AdBlock Plus and AdBlock applications on my web browser. Because it blocks most things, and then I can go through and handpick, like, where I allow ads. So, like, sites that I respect. So, like Rooster Teeth site, generally YouTube, because I mostly just watch people I'm subscribed to, specific forums for companies, like small companies that I like. I go in there and I whitelist all those sites, and I'll see their ads because I want to support those guys.
Yeah.
But on just general internet, I use ad blocking software because I know that because I use Google services and other services that track you and send all this information out, that there's just going to be a load of stuff that even I might be interested in if I saw it, but I don't want the internet to end up that way. So
Yeah.
I just block it. So even though they might get some of my information, they don't get any benefit from it because I'm not buying stuff based on their ads.
Yeah. Well, like, and I had an experience yesterday or the day before. I don't know. I was helping my little brother shop for a keyboard because he streams a lot. You know, shout out to Hagrid. And his keyboard was way too loud for what he was doing with it. And so he was just looking for another one, and I recommended him a keyboard that I have, just a slightly newer version. And I just looked at it on Amazon. Well, and then I went to a webcomic that I read, and there was an ad for that exact fucking keyboard that I was looking at on that
It
site.
follows you.
Yeah, and that's the only fucking reason I even noticed the ad at all, was it was the exact fucking keyboard. And I was
Yeah.
like, shit.
I had that happen to me tons of times, just looking at like microphones or different pieces of equipment that I'm like planning on buying a year or two in the future, but I look at it once or twice and it notices a pattern. It's like, oh, hey, this person's looked at this a lot. And then every website I go to, that's all I see is that piece of equipment for like a month or like two, sometimes even longer than that. So that's when I started like, yeah, this is a little freaky. I'm going to start using ad blocking extensions and stuff.
Well, okay, and one reason why I kind of like things that block ads or trackers is for that reason, among others. But one thing about this is, it actually this stuff, when it presents you with things that are of interest to you, there's two things that are going on. For one, it is useful. It actually does help us out in our daily lives. These technologies that gather big data, manipulate it, analyze it, and use it to improve our lives. You know, traffic congestion in real life, or giving you proper ads. It's good stuff. As a tech person, I kind of have a split mind on these issues, because as much as I love the technology and I love to see it utilized for good, the thing is, you have this great potential to be an oppressive device. Yeah. And the problem is, there's this precedent throughout history of outlawing things because they might do harm. I mean, we have these opinions on, say, AT&T, you know, doing this kind of thing, and Google gathering data and following you and stuff. But we're the same type of people that say, oh yeah, marijuana should be fine because it doesn't directly cause people to do these other bad things. Yeah. So when we talk about how something could be used for bad, so it should be outlawed. Yeah. But something could also be used for bad, but it should be okay because it's not provably being used for bad. Yeah. So there's these two opposing viewpoints. Point. Yeah. And I think, I mean, look at nuclear weapons. Obviously, people say, okay, you know what? We don't even want the chance of that being around. And that's a very common viewpoint. Nuclear weapons, we don't even need those around. We don't want that button there to be pushed ever. But the thing is, the difference in viewpoint between, oh, we should get rid of all guns, people say, well, no, that's a very divisive issue because each individual instance is not of such great magnitude. Yeah. When you look at something like the power given by big data and this collection and analysis and predictive capabilities, when you look at how powerful it really is, I believe it should be a no-brainer to say, you know what, no single institution without oversight, a for-profit institution, no less, should have these type of powers. So,
it'll be like that Family Guy skit with Pepperidge Farm, where he was talking about, yeah, maybe you'll go buy some cookies, and that person you ran over last year will just go away, because yeah,
it's Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Oh God.
Yeah, honestly, in my opinion, what it comes down to is it's like, yeah, I don't like that people are gathering up all this data, and I think it's bad, but they're gonna do it, and in general, it is to, like, make your lives easier. If you are somebody who is really concerned about your privacy, use a VPN, use encrypted services. There are ways to protect yourself that a normal person just going about their day, they're not gonna worry about, because they're just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. if it matters to you, there are ways to protect yourself. Like I said, VPN, encrypted services, things like that. You still inherently have to trust somebody in that situation, whether it's the company that provides your VPN or the type of encryption you use, the people who create that. There's still going to be some level of trust there, but I would rather trust a company like Private Internet Access who does VPN stuff than AT&T. So,
Well,
if you are concerned, there are ways to protect yourself.
Yes.
the thing with that though that I run into on a daily basis because I try and do that is there's two things. Number one, trying to distribute your trust among different companies with competing interests, I think, is a good idea. The problem comes when everything is provided by singular entities or ones that own a whole bunch of subsidiaries that you then deal with.
Yeah.
That's why kind of Google creeps me.
The Turner...
Time Warner?
Time Warner, that's the one.
Yeah, Time Warner Comcast.
Yeah, like,
it's another
yeah.
example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not always clear who owns what subsidiary.
Exactly, because if they're
Exactly.
privately owned, they are under no obligation to publicize that data, for one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
At least as far as I know. I'm not a freaking lawyer or whatever.
Well, it's they do have. It does have to be public data that this company owns these smaller companies. Like, that is public, but that doesn't mean it's easy to find.
Well, I don't
There-
know.
There's long chains of, this company owns this subsidiary, and this subsidiary owns these three others who have partial ownership of this other one, which is owned by this
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
See, but I
Yeah.
didn't know. I thought if they were a private corporation, I thought they didn't have to release that information. I thought it was only if they were publicly
got
traded.
something to do with antitrust laws as well as
Yeah. Yeah.
anti-fraud
They-
laws.
Well,
They do have to release that information. The information private companies don't have to release is like their yearly earnings, their expenditures, different things like that.
well, yeah, I don't know. So I mean, you can try.
Yeah.
But the thing is that's the point. It has to. There's this certain level of effort that has to be expended to educate yourself on how to use these technologies, how to use these alternatives, and sometimes there may not even be alternatives.
Yeah.
But what I feel like's happening is to not just be pigeonholed into one of being either you are Facebook, Google's, Microsoft's, or there's a couple more, like a handful of companies. You're either you're their bitch, or all your free time, all your extra energy is sent towards just avoiding that route. And I think it's been getting harder every year. That's just me. I mean,
It's like your phone. It's like you can either have a Google phone or an Apple phone, or you can deal with the bullshit that is not an Android or
Not one of
Apple
those.
phone.
But even then, like, your alternatives are the Microsoft and BlackBerry, which BlackBerry, security-wise, is probably the best option there, but then you're limited with the devices you can use and the apps that you have and different things like that.
Yeah.
So it's a convenience versus privacy type thing there.
right.
Well, on to something much, much happier. The Lazer Team trailer was dropped by our beloved Rooster Teeth, and I love it. I love the trailer. It just looks cool.
Dude, I don't even have like a massive Rooster Teeth boner like you do, and I thought it was awesome.
So massive.
I just went into that. I went into that trailer cold, and I'm like, yeah, I'd totally go see that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
So, for those of you listening who don't know, we've talked about Rooster Teeth a lot. They're a media production company that does stuff for the web. A while back, they announced they were going to make a movie, and they were crowdfunding it through Indiegogo. They asked for $650,000 over the course of I think it was a 30-day campaign.
Something
By
like
the
that,
end
yeah.
of their campaign, they got $2.4 million, broke pretty much every record on Indiegogo.
yeah.
And so they just blew it out of the water. It was an amazing crowdfunding story that they had. And so they've been hard at work on it, filming it, doing principal photography and some of the special effects. And they just released this last week a teaser trailer, essentially teasing the actual trailer that will be coming up. That trailer, full trailer, is going to be released March 16th at South by Southwest this year.
Sweet.
It looks incredible, though. The money, you can definitely tell that it went in on the screen. You can see it in the special effects and the casting they got.
yeah.
It looks great.
Plus, just something about Michael in a freaking unitard, man.
Yeah, all of them in unitards. I mean, it was funny. Yeah, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's really funny. If you don't really know about Rooster Teeth through this movie, definitely check it out, because I definitely think it's going to appeal to a lot of people that aren't Rooster Teeth fans, but the people who are Rooster Teeth fans, you're going to find a bit even more to like, because it's going to be personalities you're familiar with at least a little bit, as well as normal Hollywood actors. They're kind of mixing it together, and I think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah. Well,
because I donated to the funding, and I was like, okay, I'm going to like anything these guys put out, but I was still kind of nervous because they haven't done anything this big before. Watching just the teaser, which is 1 minute and 15 seconds, I am not worried anymore. I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I heard just from their stuff is, like, even the people from their company that are in it, like, they actually did go to the casting calls and got their callbacks. They did it legitly, not just because they worked there.
Didn't. Yeah, they didn't just throw people that worked there in. They definitely had to go to the casting stuff, and it wasn't just people from Rooster Teeth doing the casting either. They had some other people there, so it wasn't biased. So the people who were in the movie as big parts that were from Rooster Teeth earned their spot there.
Oh yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
Okay, so like a thought that I had about this this movie just from the simple teaser trailer. I mean, obviously not the whole thing. Yeah. But for one thing, as far as comedic value, like I really think that the dynamics between the characters, like just the stuff like when they're just talking around, like when it's not trying to be funny, like you know how movies you can tell when they're trying to make it funny here, this is supposed to be a joke here, and then it's like some movies really master the just normal stuff happening all the time is funny. I think that's totally gonna work with this from what I saw. The problem, the one potential thing I see is the whole trying to make it try too hard on the one parts where they're supposed to be jokes. Yeah. And I kind of got a hint from like one or two spots in there. I can't remember exactly where, but I'm not too worried. I mean, you know. Yeah. I'm not invested either, so it's fine.
Yeah. You'll just go into that and be like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing the people at Rooster Teeth know, it's comedy. I mean, that's kind of their big thing. That's what they do. I mean, almost everything they release is a comedic endeavor.
Yeah. So, any words from Thrud?
Yeah, I was just going to ask the ninja over here.
I mean, you don't have to throw the ball to me every time. I was just going to say it's refreshing to see a independently funded film, well, really an independently funded anything actually coming through. I mean, it's easy to get really jaded with Kickstarters that fall through or Steam early releases that turn out to really suck.
And there's lots of them.
Most of them. Almost all of them.
Let's not get into that again.
Yeah, anyway. Continue through.
It's unfortunate that given the chance to truly work on your passion project, a lot of people don't measure up. You would think if you were given that chance, you would really throw yourself at it. And many of them do, and it still doesn't work out. It's very much a statistical thing. So, if you've kind of gotten burned on that before, seeing this film break all these Indiegogo records and then be able to put out a product that actually looks good and is exciting and a lot of people can relate to it and want to go see it, it's a ray of sunshine in a vast swamp.
Yeah.
That's so well worded.
Thank you. I was going to be a writer, but then I was like, nah, fuck it. I want to kill people for a living.
Ninjas.
Dude, if I had the choice to be a ninja over, like...
anything else?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe, like, astronaut with my own, like, rock band, maybe? I don't know.
But it has to be both, right? Not just one or the other.
And the rock band has to, like, we have to be in space for it to work. So, ninja, always on top.
Well, bear in mind, I'm not technically a ninja because I didn't travel to Japan to study ninjutsu. I am still technically a Midgardian ninja, so, reasonable closest thing, only with battle axes.
Okay, so you're like Batman level ninja, right?
Sure. Totally.
Okay.
Batman level ninja. Greatest term I've ever heard.
We're gonna have to make that scale now. Make it a picture.
Oh God. Okay.
Infographic
Yes.
on it.
Okay. Next is also happy news. Recently, an 11-year-old
Wait,
lost.
happy?
It kind of.
I think he's being it. Yeah.
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead and say what it is, and then we'll weigh in.
It's happy because it's gamers in a community not being colossal douchebags as a whole.
And that's a massive triumph.
Yes, it is. Because like the story here, you know what, Jason, you tell the story now that.
Okay, yeah, I can do it. So, for those of you who don't know, the PlayStation 4 has a feature called SharePlay, where you can let other people essentially take control of your game if, like, you can't beat a part or something, and let, essentially, your friends show you how to do it for you, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool. So, it's a way to, like, help people out who are stuck in a game. Well, there was an 11-year-old kid who let somebody, I'm assuming somebody on his friends list, take over his PlayStation 4 to do something or other. I can't remember what the guy promised he could do.
Oh, it was a quote hack or glitch unquote to level up his low-level characters quicker.
Yeah,
Only
so this was in
someone
the
had
game
taught him.
Destiny, which we've talked about multiple times before. And so the 11-year-old let this guy take over his account, and I guess he went to like the kitchen or something to do something. And anyways, he was away from his console. And while he was away from his console for a few seconds, this guy deleted this kid's Destiny characters, just wiping out all of his progress in the game. There's no way to get these characters back. There's no way to get his gear back. All of it is gone permanently.
And the one character he didn't delete, he actually didn't he go in and delete a bunch of gear from the main that he had?
That I don't know. I haven't looked that far into it. But basically, all this stuff happened, and then so the Destiny community is kind of rallying around this kid, and basically just trying to be supportive. And they're calling for. I saw on the Bungie forums or something that they're calling for the guy who did this, his gamer score, his gamer tag. They want him banned completely from at least Destiny, if not all of Xbox Live.
PlayStation Plus, you mean?
Yeah, PlayStation Plus. Sorry.
Yeah.
PlayStation Live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PlayStation Live.
For Destiny, I play on Xbox, so I got it confused. But yeah.
The guy's name was Kermit the Frog.
Yeah. I was about to say, if you would like to
Kermit
lend
the
your
Frog.
voice to the masses.
Yep. So apparently, I haven't read it, but apparently the guy who owns that gamer tag has issued a response.
Oh.
And I think it's, from what I could gather from the comments on the Bungie forums, people are doubting whether the stuff that he's saying is true. He's saying that it wasn't him, that somebody else had access to his account, that he was in the hospital for something, and that somebody took over and did this with his gamer tag, but it wasn't him. I didn't delete this account. And I'm like, I don't know about that. That seems like you're trying too hard to prove that you weren't at fault.
Yeah, well, and let's be honest. If he can prove that any of that is true, then, power to him. Admittedly, I'm less, ban the guy, and more, this kid, they really should give him something,
Yeah, I don't know what they could give him. I wish Bungie would give him something, because, he didn't do anything wrong. The one argument you can make is kid trusted dude he didn't know on the internet. It's like, well, he's 11.
Yeah.
Fucking Christ, come on. I'm a pretty cynical son of a bitch, but I'm not that crazy.
Well, you know what? Do you really think there's a better way to teach an 11-year-old the lesson of don't trust strangers on the internet than to take away his most prized possessions in his game that he played?
Yeah.
It's cruel. It's...
He's learned the lesson now, but I still think he should get something.
Can you use the share play function with people who aren't on your friends list?
I don't know.
But to me, that makes the
argument,
crucial difference.
Yeah, I don't know. The argument I will make, though, is most people who play on live services have people on their friends list who they don't know.
Yeah.
Well, of course, but theoretically, if someone's obviously a dick, you aren't going to add them.
Well, sometimes they aren't a straight-up dick in speech, but their actions.
Yeah,
you can't
not
always
at
know.
first.
Well,
I've had Xbox Live friends before that I'm like, oh, this guy's really cool and stuff, and then like a month later he's turned out to be a complete douchebag, and then I delete him at that point. So at first, sometimes it's like, oh, this guy's actually really cool, and then they do something, you're like, okay, I don't like you at all anymore.
Yes,
so it
but
could have been a situation like that.
Yeah.
it's still a situation in which he presented himself as a nice person, so there is actual deceit going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I always wondered why there isn't finer granularity when it comes to socialization features in video games or anything. Because it's like
Particularly
Facebook,
with minors.
yeah, because it's like on Facebook you have a friend, but you don't have acquaintances. You don't have this. I mean, there's all these different levels of friendship or interactions.
Google Plus tried to do that.
Yeah, they had what did they call it? Aspects?
Well, no, there was
Circles.
circles. Yeah.
That's what they call it.
They have an option for that on Facebook. Like, you can set somebody as your acquaintance, but all it does, the only difference is you don't see as much of the stuff that they post.
Right. I guess it would be nice to just have the a way to label a group of, like, you have a list of contacts, friends, in other words, and then you could just sort of label them somehow. I don't know.
Like people you know,
agree.
people
I guess
you
people
don't
sort
know.
of people do that
I
in their
agree.
heads anyway.
Yeah.
Xbox kind of has something like that. Like, if somebody sends you a friend request, or they follow you, they become a follower. If you follow them back, then you become friends.
Yeah.
So there
Okay.
there are a few levels there, because you can have somebody who's not associated with you at all, then you can have a follower, and then you can have a friend. So they have a little bit more granularity, really just one middle step. But it'd be nice if we got a little bit more varied than that. But
Yeah. But like on the other side,
but one thing with that is, like I said, I don't know if people off your friends list you can initiate the share play feature for. If it's not just people on your friends list and it's anybody you decide to let do it, then, I mean, the greater granularity wouldn't matter.
Okay.
true.
I have an idea. I don't know if it's been said before, but okay. What if you activate the feature, and as soon as you transfer control, it does a save state, right? And then what happens is they do their shit, and then it takes another save state, and it says, okay, do you accept the outcome of this when it turns control back? If you do, then it just goes on like they did it for you. Or you can say reject that shit and say, no, I don't want to keep what you did. I think that would instantly solve this problem, and it'd be very easily implementable.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. With a game like Destiny, I don't know how easy that would be to implement, but with most games it would be really easy to do.
Yeah, it would depend on how much state variables you want to save. But really, I mean, it just, yeah.
Let's be honest, like, for off chance of stuff, like, Bungie even does this to a degree. They still have some sort of state where they know approximately what character and gear you had. Mm-hmm. So if some shit goes down, you can kind of get to an approximation of what you had most of the time.
Right, and the thing is, like, a lot of the variables that count, like, when we think of even complex video games like this, there's a lot going on, but really, there's a lot less that's important going on. Like, world events. Like, for instance, when we were playing Dark Souls, certain bosses would wouldn't respawn after you killed them once. Yeah. That kind of thing, that's a state variable, check. That, to store that, practically no space, practically no computation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I get thinking about with this is there's this trend of we expect the companies, the purveyors of these games and entertainment mediums to be the sole arbiters of these things that happen. It's like there's some court of the internet that people have to bring their case, and it's just mob rule. It's like, there doesn't matter if there's proof. Like, okay, this guy could prove that he was in the hospital. You know, he could do all this stuff. No one would care, because what if they didn't notice? What if that just wasn't a popular story that day? So
it depends on where you introduce it.
Yes, I mean, but things can scar your reputation, and you can't no say.
Yeah, no, like that is the sad thing. This guy's reputation is fucked.
He cannot use that gamer tag anymore.
Yeah, no.
Here's the beauty of it, though. For every mob justice story that takes off, there is going to be a small but powerful faction that takes the opposite stance, no matter how horrible a story it is. They're going to cling to the person who is in the wrong and say, no matter what, I'm on your side, because that's the kind of person I am. So at the very least, this Kermit guy will have a few friends.
So you're saying he's not 100% completely alone. And that's
the
not
other thing
that,
is, this powerful faction will always vocalize if it turns out that he was right. If it turns out he is in the hospital, you can bet these dudes are hanging out on Reddit and will say, hey, pay the fuck attention. This guy's innocent.
It's like you still have 3 of the 4 branches, or was it 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for you, and that ain't bad.
Yeah.
But there is actually a group on the Bungie forums that were like, even like, they weren't saying that this guy was innocent. They were just like, who cares? Whatever. He's fine. It's like, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like, it's basically the people who were like, being a dick's totally okay. It's like, we don't care.
Yeah.
And they were vocal on the forums. They were in the minority, but they were very vocal.
Yeah, that's how it goes. Final thoughts before we move on.
What do you guys think about the what they should do for retribution here? I mean, banning the guy, refunding his characters?
I'm not sure if they could refund the character, give him something exact, but I feel like they could still give some decent approximation with maybe a weapon or something that's better than what he had. Like,
I mean, they could. I don't think they should ban Kermit the Frog, because there is the possibility that it wasn't actually the guy that owns that account.
Guilty, or innocent until proven guilty.
And really, technically, he did give him.
I don't necessarily believe that that's the case, but there's the doubt there. So I mean, you can't enact that type of sentence on him without having some level of proof, and there is no level of proof. Either direction. So I don't think they should do anything to him. His reputation will be scarred enough. To the guy that lost his stuff, I agree with Tayson. They should give him something, like a couple of good guns or something, or if the guy took away certain gear and Bungie knows what gear they took away, give him that gear back. Something like that. Yeah. Just give the kids something. Well, not everything, because I'm sure there would be people who are like, oh, well, they should give him like the best weapon in the game, fully upgraded and stuff. It's like, don't do that, because that ruins the experience for everybody else. Yeah. But definitely give him something.
Yeah. Well, especially where it's like the kid got video of this happening too. Yeah. Like, so there's at the very least proof that he lost stuff.
Hold on. He got video of his characters getting deleted?
Yeah.
There's a way that you can like kick the other person out of share play.
The kid panicked and turned his system off, but it still saved that last 15 minutes.
Okay. Because, I mean, if you see somebody during share play doing something, you're like, no, fuck you. You can't do that. I can't remember which button it is because I've never used the feature. Yeah. But you can press a button and it kicks them out.
Well, the thing is that he left the room, and by the time he got back and noticed what the guy was doing...
Yeah, damage was done.
Yeah. And so really, you won't do that again, but I don't know. Anyways.
All right. Complex issue.
Complexity. It's like DNA. Anyway, next story. Joss Whedon says that Ultron being created, at least partially, by Tony Stark is more interesting than the Hank Pym route that they could have taken on such a thing. I personally am inclined to agree, but someone
see, and a lot of people are going to say I'm just jumping on the Joss bandwagon, but...
Yay for interruptions.
I'll kill you later.
Yep.
There has to be some kind of proof that, I don't know, that Ant-Man is going to turn out well before they try and take that route with Ultron. And with the film's rocky production history, there's no guarantee. So,
other than Paul Rudd being a badass.
Well...
kind of.
Paul Rudd can definitely polish a turd, though, you have to admit. Yeah. So, again, no
polish
guarantees.
A turd?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. What the hell is that?
Really? Never heard that. Oh, I forget. You live under a rock.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Anyway, so it's... I lost my train of thought, dude.
I'm so sorry. What is it? Never mind.
Paul Rudd can polish a turd.
Right. So
And
no
Hank
guarantees.
Pym.
I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be a bad movie, but again, no guarantees. And so where the deadlines are looming, it's definitely simpler, easier to write, and far more elegant, if you ask me, to make Tony Stark the creator of Ultron.
Well, and let's be completely honest anyway. If you have seen the Ant-Man trailer, Hank Pym isn't Ant-Man anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because they passed it on to, I forget the actual character's name, but Paul Rudd's character, who's a thief rather than a super genius.
Right. I forgot about that.
Well, and I mean, honestly, looking at it from the perspective of the audience at large, people really like Iron Man. They know him. They know Tony Stark is a genius and all this stuff. So for the audience at large that aren't diehard fans of the comic, it's probably better storytelling to have Tony Stark be at least partially responsible for Ultron.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Precisely.
that's just, for the audience at large, that's, I would definitely say, much better storytelling. Is it accurate to the source material? Not 100%, no, but
None of these films
sometimes
have been, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've all been successes critically and in, like, by most comic book fans and the general public. So staying completely true to the source material, not always the best solution.
Well,
Which Disney has already proven, because other than possibly costumes, they've been taking a lot of their own spins with shit, and with surprisingly good results. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for anybody listening who wants to crucify me now, don't get me wrong, there are some things that need to stick much closer to the source material, but not everything has to match it 100%.
Spider-Man. What?
Spider-Man would be a good one.
Feed us your rage tears in the
Basically,
comments.
any movie ever based on a video game or an anime could do with a little sticking closer to source material.
Especially the one where they
That's 'cause
made
there's already video.
Goku white. That was
I don't care.
okay.
Well, anyway.
So, sorry, was that a...
No,
No,
it's
it's
me.
your turn.
Oh, okay.
go.
Because normally that's not a...
yeah.
That means stop.
Oh, I use my whole hands to motion.
Yeah, some ninja signal I'm not familiar with.
Yes.
Anyway, one thing I really like, I don't know as much about this universe as you. I kind of know that Ant-Man, the guy, like the original Ant-Man, was sort of responsible for Ultron, and they're kind
Yeah.
of changing that. You also mentioned something about Ant-Man not being smart, and that's like one of
Well-
Ant-Man's only real powers.
Well, no,
That
he is still
backhanding
smart.
his wife,
Yes.
am I right?
That was Hank Pym. Don't blame the new one for that.
I still have to mention it. I mean, I know it was a misrepresentation because they drew it wrong, but still.
Yes.
He's got a slap a bitch.
Backhand.
But, like, the Paul Rudd thief character is still very intelligent, just like Hawkeye intelligence, not
Okay,
Tony
yeah.
Stark intelligent.
Not a super genius.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
Now-
he doesn't create the suit that lets him shrink or grow big and communicate with ants. They just pick him to wear it.
Okay. Well, so that was sort of just beside the point, I guess.
Yeah.
What I was wondering, or what I was thinking, is that having Tony Stark being responsible for this catastrophe that we all know Age of Ultron is going to have in it, I think it's really good from a thematic perspective.
Oh, yeah.
Because he starts out as this weapons manufacturer, and then he sees how much destruction his inventions wreak, and it's just like, and it affects him personally. And then there's this recurring theme of him making things or doing something, and it coming back to haunt him or haunt others, people he loves. And then it's like, I think this would really kind of help play in that again. Like that would give his character like more depth so than he already has, because but.
Well,
So it was
plus,
kind of a thought.
it really... It's a much better foundation for the Civil War, Captain America Civil War, namely, but about like whether they should have, whether the superhero should have a check, as it were, is kind of the main theme there. But you have to remember too, like part of Ultron is, if I remember right from an earlier report I read, part of Ultron is also an alien AI. Like he wasn't fully created by Tony Stark. He was just kind of upgraded by Tony Stark.
I believe that is correct.
Yes.
God, when you can upgrade an alien AI, you are like film television genius.
Yes.
You know, you have to be. I mean,
Or
Rather than looking at the code, just be like, I don't even know what the fuck.
Independence Day.
yeah. if you're Ian Malcolm, you know, you can do that.
Goodbye.
Yeah. And I know he's not Ian Malcolm in that
Yeah.
show.
In that movie, but still.
Jeff
I gave it a
Goldblum
cold.
is all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's all knowing, all seeing.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum is the alpha and the omega.
He'll ram a nuclear missile up your ass, man.
While smoking a cigar
Yeah.
that he is against, no less. Technically.
Oh, man.
I think we got a little sidetracked.
I
Yeah,
love that
yeah.
sidetrack like that every time we mention anything Goldblumian.
We should make a religion.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
No,
I'm sorry.
no comment on that.
Shh. Okay, next one. Simon Pegg is making a movie that looks hilarious called Kill Me 3 Times. It, like, Justin, you're good at, like, kind of summarizing things.
Am I?
Or would you prefer?
Nah.
Yes. You summarize what you saw in that trailer.
Okay, this little town in, you know, middle of nowhere, well, kind of.
I'm assuming it's somewhere on, I forget what it's called.
Okay, little tiny town, little tiny people, little petty egos, big problems, okay?
Yeah.
This guy...
Sounds like Beauty and the Beast so far.
Okay, Simon Pegg is this, like, you know, top shelf hitman guy.
He's a professional.
Yeah, he's a professional. That's the term. And he gets called in to kill somebody. I mean, it's not quite clear who he's killing in the thing, you know. But point is, while he goes about his business, he finds out that these people are trying to kill each other
Yeah.
for reasons that will be revealed in the film. But it's just kind of funny because he's just sitting there laughing his ass off because they're like fighting to the death and trying to light each other on fire and shit.
Yeah.
And it's got Simon Pegg in it.
Yeah. There is comedic value there, man.
Like,
Yeah.
yes.
Simon Pegg, I mean, man, I haven't seen a film of his that I haven't liked.
I think my favorite is still Hot Fuzz.
I think that's a good
Hot
one.
Fuzz. And if you think about it, this movie is exactly like Hot Fuzz, only he's finally on the right side of the conflict, which is the side of the conflict that has the most power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Run Fat Boy Run was good too for a feel-good
yes.
film. You know.
Yeah.
Lots of
Simon
running.
Pegg pretty much can do no wrong.
Yeah, it's
It's kind of
seems-
scary.
he's super duper skinny now though. It's kind of freaking me out.
He
Dude, he
is
looks-
really skinny.
Really? I think he looks fine.
Well, it's like compared to him in even Shaun of the Dead, like he just looks kind of gaunt and like he keeps reminding me of Gary Oldman. Like just in his like how his face looks and its gauntness.
His mortality is showing.
Yes. Which you know nothing about because you're immortal, aren't you? Ninja.
Yeah, that's a ninja perk.
All the more reason.
Man, they have the best health plan, too.
They do. They do. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, the
Ancient
premiums
Secrets-
are pretty low. The deductible's not bad. It's well, enough about work.
Great bedside manner, I hear. How's that go?
Okay.
It depends.
Okay.
The,
Running jokes.
do you guys know all the actors in this? Because I was just looking through here, and, like, these top three, like, on the movie poster, this one chick, I think she was in that, what was the zombie movie where the guy's, like, kind of a zombie? It's, like, from his point of view. Warm Bodies. That's what it
yeah.
is. Okay,
Oh.
so...
Yeah.
What? Okay, so it's that chick, and then the other one on the cover here, she was in Elysium, right? She was, whatever her name was in that.
Yeah.
And then, you got Simon Pegg. But then also there's this guy, Luke Hemsworth, and I was just wondering if he's related to the other guys. Apparently he's Chris and Liam's older brother.
That no one's ever heard of.
No,
Yeah.
his face looks familiar. I just don't remember seeing him in anything.
I don't remember the name, but he does look familiar.
He is the older brother to two of the most attractive men in Hollywood right now.
Fair point.
Like,
I
it's kind
guess.
of hard to not see that and go, he looks familiar.
He's a TV actor for one, it looks like.
Ah,
Mainly.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
TV down.
everything's TV. It looks like
New Zealand. That's the place I was trying. It looks like it's set in New Zealand.
Yeah, New Zealand. Like,
Yeah.
I like
Possibly.
New Zealand.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, it still could be Australia. I mean, like if you're in like on that coastal area, it like kind of looks the same.
But that. Yeah.
I think you just pissed off like a million New Zealanders.
Yeah.
Sorry,
probably.
New Zealand is a wonderful, majestic land, and we will rule over this land.
It is completely different from Australia in every way possible. Are you happy, New Zealanders? Are you happy?
And we will rule over this land, and we will call it this land.
I think we should call it your grave.
Oh,
Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal.
Also, thank you for Lord of the Rings, New Zealand. Thank you
Yes.
for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, the scenery was just awesome in those movies.
Moving on.
Sorry.
I think, unless Justin would like to quickly share something, I think we've hit about time.
Oh, can I tell people about fun tech stuff that I am excited about but don't know enough to know exactly why?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
cool.
We've got time.
Okay, so one thing is this company's building a chip to do what's called signal steering or active steering of Wi-Fi signals. Pretty much what you're doing is when you have any sort of radio transceiver of any kind, the antenna broadcasts a certain radiation pattern. That's and they can kind of control that statically. But the problem is, when you want omnipurpose devices, you have no idea which orientation they're going to be in, especially for home use. I mean, you don't know. So what they try and do is try and have it be as omnidirectional as possible, spherical if you can.
Yeah.
You know from audio wave functions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So you see kind of,
except for they do have speakers that produce an audio wave that will not go beyond the length of the speaker.
right.
So.
That was okay.
How does that differ from beamforming
Okay. It's,
in like a consumer router?
okay. Explain what beamforming is from like what you know. Like what is
From what I thought beamforming was, I'm not a networking expert, is basically the router can tell the direction that essentially the direction that your transmission from your device comes from, and sends its information back solely in that direction.
Okay, so that, in essence, it's the same functionality that you're trying to do. The difference is probably what they have to do there is they have to use different chips, and they have to have a couple to triangulate the direction the signal is coming from, and then they have to selectively choose a transceiver transmitting direction. Because they already... So statically, they have to have it preformed to go in a different way. It's just like you can do the same thing with your... like a Wi-Fi card. If you can make a can-tana, which is essentially like a Pringles can or a can of beans or something. And you get the metal... And what you can do is essentially a directionalized antenna that you can just switch. Sort of the same thing. But what this allows is a single integrated chip that can dynamically change the radiation pattern. Okay. So it could tell where it was coming from and then form it to that. Now, not only does that help with signal strength because more of the energy is actually going in the direction of where you want it to go, but it also decreases because of the way Wi-Fi works. It's essentially it's like a collision detection type protocol where everything starts broadcasting, and if it transmits fine, then it's good. But if it hears other people talking, it's just like us in this room. We'll try to talk, and if we can talk, we're fine. But if someone starts talking at the same time, we might back off for certain periods of time.
Okay.
So what this does is it decreases the amount of interference. So like in cities and stuff like we are, where there's multiple Wi-Fi routers all over the place, it could dramatically decrease the amount of noise.
Which there is 10 that I can pick up on from right where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that sounds really cool.
Yeah, so I think it's really cool. I mean, I don't know if they are completely unique, but it just seemed like they're pretty well like getting ready to put it into market type stuff.
So like it's the kind of thing where like if you have an entertainment center that doesn't move, you can literally just point it at that entertainment center.
Well, pretty much what happens, the chips themselves, you wouldn't have to actually do anything.
Yeah,
just
it would do it
out.
by itself is what I'm getting. It would just automatically know.
So you don't even have to point anything. You just like, my entertainment center is always here. And it just like knows that.
Yeah, on the consumer level, your devices would just work better with Wi-Fi.
Awesome.
Sounds like I need to invest.
Like, that's the bottom line. So it's kind of cool idea.
That sounds very necessary, because Wi-Fi still is kind of crappy compared to wired connection.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because there's only so much bandwidth within the realm that you want, because it's like if you try and up the frequency to up the bandwidth, then it's not going to penetrate walls as easy, or it's going to have certain interference with other things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Another thing that's kind of fun to talk about, they just, some researchers just did they've been working on these two different types of catalysts. One of them is silver catalyst, if that makes any... Yeah, point is, they found a way to dramatically increase the amount of oxygen that can be recycled. So when you have, like, say, in the International Space Station or submarines or something, they have to have oxygen scrubbers. They have to produce oxygen. Now, like, nuclear submarines, they can stay under because they split water through electrolysis, and they get the oxygen out that way. So they just, but they still have to scrub the CO2 out of the atmosphere, which sucks. Same thing in the International Space Station. What this does is it's two separate catalysts. You have a two-part process. One splits carbon dioxide with carbon and two oxygens, splits off one oxygen molecule, gives out carbon monoxide. Still poisonous, still going to kill your ass. What they do is they feed that into another process that, what was it? Hell. Pretty much what it does is I think it splits the carbon atom off, and then it puts a oxygen from that onto another carbon monoxide molecule. So essentially, it gives you a complete cycle where you end up with straight carbon and oxygen. Yeah, really kind of cool. Again, if you're of a chemist bent, you might want to go take a look at that. Really kind of a cool idea. Just thought I'd mention it. And then finally, there is some news about the HTTP protocol, because you guys know, it's the basis of
the internet.
The internet. Yeah. And the thing with the protocol is because there's been a whole bunch of laundry list of things that could be better. Because for one thing, it has a lot of overhead. It's kind of big headers. So to transmit a small amount of actual data needed, you have to transmit this huge header. And it's like a human readable text. Like if you go into a command line prompt and tell them that into something, you can actually make a request by typing it out. The new protocol is binary. It's compressed. It compresses to save space automatically. Yeah, stuff like that. So it's really kind of cool. It's based on a Google protocol. I think like the SPDY, I think is what it was called. It was in Google Chrome. And pretty much what they did is it says, hey, here we've taken all these things that we've heard, complaints about developers and things that could be done better. We made this protocol, and then they took it to the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. And they're the guys that come up with RFCs, so protocol descriptions. They'll have one for like TCP or one for like SSL or any of these things that are standardized. These are the guys that are responsible for hammering that out. So they talk to all these industry experts. They take the Google protocol, they build on it, and now they have this. After the first HTTP, I think version 1.1, which is the last one, came out in like 1999. Yeah. It's been a while. So. Yeah, so it's kind of a good development. It just means that, there's going to be less bandwidth required. Things will run smoother. Like, for instance, you can have multiple HTTP requests through a single TCP connection instead of having to have multiple ones. That's a problem because each one of those connections on a lower level protocol takes a whole bunch of overhead to establish in the first place. So all this extra congestion that you end up with would be gone because you're essentially... It's like, imagine if you had to build 50 different pipes to transmit the same amount of stuff instead of just building one pipe.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, instead of needing 5 different routes to open 5 different web pages, all 5 web pages can use the same route. It's just, so... As far as just making the sheer request, anyway.
Yeah. And then, really, that's all I want. You can look into it more, but really, that's just sort of the headline for for that. So it's kind of cool.
All in all, sounds like it's all very good news for astronauts.
And the internet overall.
Yeah, well, you know, when they get that laser transmitting of data working, because they were testing that this last year, if they get that working, man, they could stream Netflix up there and home away from home.
Now just get that working for Mars, for the Mars One team.
Yeah, 45-minute, delay, but hey.
I'll take it.
They'll have to do buffering again. Oh my.
Yeah.
Which I hear that we shouldn't hold our breath on that, but that's beside the point. It's not our itinerary today. This has been End User Input. Bye.
Bye.
That's a ninja.
Thanks for listening to this week's End User Input podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and favorite, and leave a comment below. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at the links provided below. Also follow the links to relevant content. See you next week!